Lance Stroll's performance at Aston Martin has gone from bad to worse, and the young Canadian driver could be looking for a way out of Formula One. Whether Lawrence likes it or not, his son is not the driver to bring a championship home, even if 2026 turns out to be a strong season for the team. The question is, will this split finally happen? And if so, who is the most likely driver to replace Lance at Aston Martin? The situation surrounding Stroll's seat is becoming increasingly problematic. Although Lance currently has more points than Alonso this season, 32 compared to 30, he is far from being in great form. For 28 consecutive weekends, he has failed to outqualify his teammate. His lack of passion is evident, shown by his short, disinterested answers to the media in Monza. This attitude is damaging the sport's image, which is why there have been countless calls for Lawrence to finally part ways with his son. Time and again, Lance's behavior has seemed inappropriate for Formula One. Just look at how he acted in Qatar in 2023 and again in Barcelona this year, pushing and shoving his physio, for which he was reprimanded by the FIA, and throwing a tantrum after being disqualified in Spain. To make matters worse, his Barcelona crash aggravated his old wrist injury, forcing him to miss a race and putting his Canadian Grand Prix participation in doubt. We don't need to dig deep to see why Lance doesn't deserve to be in this sport. From the major mistakes in Brazil to the horrifying qualifying crash in Singapore 2023 at over 240 kilometers per hour, his track record speaks for itself. But the reality is that the only person who can remove Lance from F1 is Lance himself. Reports suggest that he has considered giving up his seat to focus on other career paths, such as rallying or even tennis. In fact, he has already tested in rallying, showing that motorsport outside F1 could be a genuine option for him. The biggest obstacle, of course, is convincing Lawrence, who has poured millions into factories, wind tunnels and staff, that his investment won't turn his son into a world champion. His lack of motivation is becoming more and more obvious. At Monza, his dull media responses revealed a near-total disinterest in the sport. There are even reports that when he visited Aston Martin's facilities in Silverstone with Lawrence, he looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. This is not a good look for Aston Martin, especially when it comes to keeping business partners happy. Winning with only one competitive driver is nothing but fantasy in the tightly packed 2026 field, where both drivers must be at their peak. It's becoming increasingly clear that Lawrence also knows Lance is not championship material. Since Aston Martin's takeover in 2021, Lance has barely looked good enough to justify a spot on the grid, let alone fight for titles. External pressure from partners like Honda and Adrian Newey will only grow stronger. With Yuki Tsunoda's uncertain future at Red Bull, his ties to Honda could land him a spot at Aston Martin. Honda's president, Koji Watanabe, has already said they will have a say in who drives for the team. If Aston Martin builds a highly competitive car, tolerance for Lance will shrink quickly. This could put Lawrence in a difficult position. Hiring top talent like Newey, Cowell and Cardile is one thing, but keeping them satisfied with the driver lineup is another. They'll want strong feedback from both drivers, and Lance simply doesn't provide it. Despite Mike Crack's claims about Lance's technical knowledge, the reality is he's sheltered in a bubble of safety created by his father, and only Lance can burst out of it. At this point, Lance doesn't seem happy as an F1 driver, and many believe he's only in the seat because of his father. That's not far from the truth, considering Lawrence has been funding his career since Formula 3 and his rookie year at Williams. While Lance has shown flashes of potential like his pole position at the 2020 Turkish GP and a few podiums, it's nowhere near enough to prove he belongs at the top level. Reports suggest his mother, Claire Ann, has been pressuring Lawrence to let go of his dream and allow Lance to pursue what he truly wants. This gained momentum after his violent Singapore crash in 2023. His recent rally test has only fueled speculation about a career change. The Aston Martin project is massive, and expectations are that they will be fighting at the very front from 2026 onwards. But the difference between them and the top teams will depend heavily on the drivers. Right now, Aston Martin cannot confidently say they have two drivers capable of consistently scoring points. The qualifying gap between Lance and Alonso is one of the biggest on the grid, and Stroll often relies on crashes or retirements ahead of him to score.